Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the entire internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. We got Dr. Brewhouse with us. Many of you have expressed your concern about me running through the woods as I'm being chased out of the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch lair by treetop hopping, cloaking entities. There's some concern that I might fall on my sword. Hey, I am not a disgraced Japanese warrior. I would never do that, but I appreciate your concern. And no, I did not get a haircut. Wait a minute, it was in my coat. And no, I did not get a haircut. I'm wearing a ponytail. I did miss this coat. Yeah, we wintered in the Philippines this past winter to escape the cold weather. That was one of the reasons. But to be honest with you, I missed some things about the cold weather. Like I missed the apparel. I kind of like coats, and I like, I'm wearing running tights right now underneath my pajama pants. Yes, you know me. I sit in the woods and tell stories in my pajama pants. I homestead in my pajama pants. I missed splitting firewood, cutting firewood. I actually did some of that today for the first time in a while, more than a year. And what I will say is it was harder than I remember it being. And I can't believe I was actually excited to leave the tropical islands of Southeast Asia to come back here and split firewood. I lasted for about 40 minutes. It was a good workout. I went in, took a shower, because it was cold today where I am here in Central Virginia. We've got that cold spell coming through. It's like 40 degrees, and I was out there for 40 minutes. And got to use my Husqvarna 20-inch Rancher chainsaw to cut through some 36-inch in diameter red oak logs I've had sitting down here for years that I need to just go ahead and get cut up, or they're going to rot and go to waste, so I don't want that. There's probably like 2 months worth of burning in these big suckers. So got to use my totally awesome chainsaw. Got to bust some of those big rounds up with a sledgehammer and a maul. In the cold, it felt great. I went in, took a hot shower when I was done, went upstairs and laid down with a book. Let's see, what am I reading now? Agatha Christie's 5 Little Pigs. Just started it today if you're a fan of her. She's a wonderful author, wonderful. Can't believe I discovered her so late in life, just the last couple of years. And I was asleep in like 5 minutes. So I had me a nice hour-and-a-half long afternoon nap. As you can see, evening is coming on us. Yeah, so anyway, and I missed burning the wood in the wood stove. But I've come tonight into the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch forest to tell you a tale, something that took place over the winter. Did you hear that? Did you? And then there's that rooster crowing again. So we've got footsteps behind us, yet we see nothing yet, and we hear a rooster crowing. So keep watching. Okay, so anyway, yesterday I was reminded of something that happened over the winter, at Christmas actually, and I live streamed quite a bit on our Sick Twisted Humor Facebook page while I was in the Philippines. A lot of times because I was bored and it was early afternoon where I was, which would have been like the wee hours of the night here, 1, 2, 3 a.m. So most of you probably miss those live streams, and I know there's a lot of you here that don't do Facebook anyway. Some like strange lights seem to be appearing back there. Crazy. There's nothing for the sun to reflect off of in here. See, I don't got anything metal up here. I mean, except for the plate in my head, but the sun can't hit that directly. So anyway, there were 3 primary reasons we wanted to spend our winter in the Philippines. One was the weather. I already told you that. Number 2, of course, we have family there. Dearly's family, my family that I've been honored to marry into. Wonderful people. I haven't seen them in too long because I hadn't been over there in many years. Dearly and Daniel hadn't been there for 3 years, so it was just time to go back. But why 5 months? Why so long? Well, because we kind of wanted Daniel to remember where he came from, and we wanted to be reminded of what tough times are like, what it's like to do without. So, because we live in a very affluent area here right outside of Charlottesville, Virginia, there's a lot of wealth. I hate to use the word privilege because people refer to me as privileged. And I take offense to that because I grew up poor. I spent many years down and out in the Philippine Islands. I had nothing, couldn't eat. And everything we have now, our estate here in Albemarle County, the house, the vehicles, everything, the investments, the money in the bank, the food in the kitchen, I've worked very hard to acquire. But I have come to understand, and it was somebody, listen, it was somebody who's a little right of center, somebody who's a little conservative who explained to me, listen, yeah, I get it. You get offended when people go around throwing that P word at you, privilege. Oh, you privileged, person, you. But listen, they said, you got to understand this. Look at your son and the life he has and compare that to maybe some other kids. Something's back there. Okay. They said, compare his life, what he has, the opportunities he has. To maybe some underprivileged kids. Let's say maybe kids who are being raised in households where the parents aren't as motivated as my wife dearly and I to be successful, to provide a better life for our child, better than the one we knew, better than the one we had when we were down out in the Philippines. I know those families are out there. They're everywhere. Even though we're in a very affluent area here, there are some here. Deadbeat dads, deadbeat moms, don't work. Those children are not as well off as my son. And so this person, by explaining this to me, they said, look, it's okay. Let's accept the fact you work to get to where you are. You earn what you have. And as a result of that, however, you got to understand your kid has a more comfortable life than a lot of other kids out there. I said, yeah, I totally get that. That's why I work so hard to have what I have and to get to where I'm at so he could have a better life, And they said, well, so that's why your son is technically kind of privileged in comparison to some of his peers whose parents are kind of maybe deadbeats and don't work, or maybe they're alcohol dependent, or maybe they abuse substances and they're not very productive as a result of that. And, and I was like, I get it. And in that light, that's why we wanted to go back to the Philippines, third world poor. Dearly's family over there love them to death, and this is not an insult. This is just stating a fact. They are third world poor. Many of them live in huts, some of them with dirt floors, no running water, they have outhouses. And so we'd seen over the years where, Daniel maybe would have a friend that would say, oh my gosh, you don't have whatever, fill in the blank, latest gadget, the latest high brand motorcycle, four-wheeler, just whatever. And they would insinuate that Daniel was poor. One kid actually told him that since we burn firewood in the winter to heat our house, that we're poor. And because our house is so old, we're poor. And when Daniel was telling us this stuff, I was like, does that bother you that this spoiled little privileged child is saying this stuff to you? And Daniel laughs. He says, no. He says, I don't care. He says, Dad, I'm from the Philippines. I know what poor is. These kids don't. But our concern was that if he spends too much time away from those very humble roots of his, he spent the first 5 years of his life over there in the Philippines, we're afraid he might forget it. And he might start thinking, oh, wow, my friends are right. I don't have this X amount of thousands of dollars dirt bike because, Mommy and Daddy bought me a $2,000 starter bike to make sure that I would actually enjoy riding dirt bikes before they went out and pissed away $8,000 on a Kawasaki or a Honda, Maybe we're poor. that's what they told me, but maybe we're really poor. Maybe that's why Daddy splits all that. So anyway, we went back, and it didn't take long of him being there looking around. And I'll tell you exactly when it happened. Our grandparents, Malolo, that gave me this, 10th generation now. Daniel is 10th generation to have this Spanish bayonet that's been converted to a sword in the family. Sounds as if there's somebody back here on a porch swing, just swinging on a porch swing, watching me and listening to this story. But then the minute I acknowledge them, they stop. This is creepy. These woods are creepy. So anyway, our grandparents have two places where they live. One is a hut in the jungle, and then they have a house in the city, which is about 4 hours away. Once upon a time, our grandparents were actually somewhat well off, but our Lola was stupid with money, just saying it like it is, and she liked to impress people, and so when she would come into money, she would spend it to be seen spending it. In the Philippines, they call it a one-day millionaire. Here in the U.S., we call them a yuppie, or materialistic, consumeristic. So the money would never last. But for a time when they had it, they were able to buy a house. But now, don't go thinking house by American standards is basically a hut on stilts in a city where there's more people and more pollution, but at least electricity, okay? And running water. However, no bathroom, no flushing toilet. So we're there this winter at the house in the city, and we had to go to the bathroom. So we're like, hey, where's the CR? That's what it's called there. That stands for comfort room. So it was downstairs where you go in. It's like a dirt floor downstairs. There's nothing down there but like piles of rocks and just, it was clutter. And then you go back in this back room. It's like a closet, and there's just a hole in the ground. A hole in the ground with like a pipe fitting in there with a pipe that drains out that goes to some ditch in a back alley that eventually drains down into the beach. Yeah, seriously, it's disgusting. The government over there is really trying to move all the squatters off of the beaches so they can get them cleaned up, put in proper sewage, septic systems, and then actually convert that. The best country, or the best land, the most beautiful land in the country, sadly, is occupied by millions of squatters living there for free, throwing up these huts and just throwing their sewage and their trash into the sea. There are parts that they have cleaned up. It's gotten better in some places, but in most places it's gotten worse. So that's what it is. So we go down there to use this bathroom. Steep flight of steps. And mind you, our grandparents are 86 years old. They have to go up and down these steps to use this hole in the ground. So my son uses that hole, and he comes out and he says to me, he says, you know what, Dad? I said, what? He goes, yeah, I get it. I feel privileged. And I said, okay, good. I said, listen, never feel guilty for what we have, because you've seen me and your mother work. You know how hard we've worked to get what we have. And you know that up until you were 5 years old, this is what we had. Very similar situation, living situation. But we wanted different. And so instead of taking the victim mentality and me crying, oh, woe is me, look at me, I'm a disabled combat war veteran, my government should give me more, or, you know, dearly going with the common Filipino woe is me storyline of, oh, well, I'm Filipina and I'm poor because my government's corrupt. No, those are excuses. And you can state such excuses for the rest of your life and your situation will never improve. But instead of doing that, we said, hey, we want something better. So let's work for something more. And we did, and it took years. And it's been 15 years to get to this point where we are on social media right here, to where we could go back and spend the winter in the Philippines and have our wonderful life over here in Virginia. So I saw, though, in that moment that the lesson was sinking in. But I'm going to share a story with you about something that happened at Christmas that really let me know the lesson took, okay? So, and I made a video of our Christmas party over there in the Philippines, and it's on this channel. Just go back through our videos, and you don't have to go too far, because I didn't put too many videos on here when I was in the Philippines, because I was enjoying being there. And I was working the Facebook angle because it's a lot more profitable than YouTube. And any stray dog will go where they're fed. So any dumb hillbilly like me will go where they're paid, right? So, and plus I didn't have my spooky forests, my beautiful homestead property for my backdrop. And I mean, this is my element for this platform, and I'm out of it when I'm not here. So, but we made a video. It was a great time. We roasted a pig. We went through 20 cases of beer in one day. Oh my gosh. Christmas to New Year's was something, brah. So, but here's what we did. Dearly and I did something. So at Christmas in the Philippines, it's different. They don't hurry up and try to go to sleep on Christmas Eve so Santa will come and bring them stuff and then wake up super early. They don't, like, the gift thing is so rare over there because they can't afford it. So in their culture, they stay up until after midnight on Christmas Eve. And then at midnight, they let off fireworks. And of course, there's food on Christmas Eve. We have a big dinner. That's when we roasted the pork lechon, a 60-kilogram pig, so like a 90-pound pig. My mouth's watering thinking about it. Oh my gosh, the funny stories I could tell you about that. So about half of Dearly's family they're Muslims. They practice the Islamic faith. So listen, I'm just saying it like it is. I don't know what words are good and bad anymore on social media. I'm just telling it like it is. So we roasted the pig and it's served. We're all having dinner and like half of her cousins are gone. I'm like, where'd they go? And I was thinking, oh yeah, they practice the Islamic faith. Maybe they didn't want to be here for this. So I had to take a leak, right? At one point. And so I sneak out into the jungle because there was an outhouse. Somebody was in the outhouse. There's no this was out at the hut, our grandparents' hut in the jungle. And so I'm creeping through the jungle and I've got my cell phone flashlight so I don't step on a cobra or a broken beer bottle or something. And there's this guy standing there with his back to me and he turns around real quick and he's got a plate of that lechon, that pork lechon up like this, and chewing it in his mouth. Well, it was one of her cousins that, practices the Islamic faith. And I got the light on me. He says, "Who's that?" I said, "It's Kevin." He goes, "Oh my God, don't tell anybody. This is delicious." And I'm like, okay. And I don't tell this to like make fun of him or to say he's a hypocrite. I thought it was funny. And I found all of her cousins that I thought left. They were all out in the jungle eating that pig, telling me not to tell anybody. And I was like, okay. And I told Dearly later. I did tell Dearly. She's my wife. I don't keep anything from her. I said, "Did you know so-and-so?" And she goes, "Yeah, that happens all the time. They always just," and she says, they claim to be Muslims because they married these women that are, and they had to convert and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, they like that lechon. And she's like, "Yeah, I know. They still eat bacon too." And I'm like, well, who couldn't? I mean, that's whatever. I'm going to have to go through and edit this out or get canceled, I'm sure. Hey, just true story. It really happened. So anyway, one of the things we did is that we got all the kids a gift and wrapped them up so the kids could experience what it was like opening a Christmas present on Christmas. And I'm reminded of this story because the other day at football practice, or we're coming home from football practice, Daniel said that one of the kids on his team asked him if it was true that he gave his Christmas presents away. And I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse here with this, but this is why I was reminded. And I said, "How did they know about that?" And they said they watched it on Facebook when I told the story on Facebook. So here's what we did. We counted up, these are the little cousins, nieces, nephews. There was like 20 kids. And then Daniel. And we got Daniel 3 things. I mean, he's our son. And we couldn't help it. We're buying him these things. So we go out there for this Christmas party, having a big pig roast. And we had invited, just that day, we had friends that lived across the road from one of Dearly's sisters that we invited. And they had 3 sons that they brought with them. So we're handing out the gifts, and these 3 little boys are there. They were like 7, 8, and 12. And it occurred to me, OMG, we don't have anything for them. Well, Daniel had his 3 presents. He's like, "Don't worry, Dad, I got this." And he had already opened one, okay? This is what's even so amazing. And he liked what it was. I can't remember right offhand what it was. So he goes over to these 3 kids and he says, "Oh, hey, here, we forgot to give you yours." He gives the 2 younger boys unwrapped Christmas gifts that were his. And he gives the 12-year-old boy that's his age, Daniel turned 13 in February. He says, "Here, I'm sorry, I accidentally opened yours." And the kids are like, "Are you sure? Aren't these yours?" He goes, "No, no, mine are at home. Mom and Dad didn't want to bring them out here because, you know, they got me some nice stuff, and they want to do the Christmas thing ourselves. These are for yours. These are your gifts." So my son gave away his Christmas gifts to these 3 children who otherwise would have been the only 3 children out of like 20, maybe 23 or 24 kids that didn't get gifts. So, and I would later have it confirmed to me, what I suspected is that this was the only time any of these kids had ever received a Christmas gift on Christmas. And they loved it. They ripped into them. They were excited, and they all liked what they got because we made sure to get them something we knew they would like. And some of these kids were teenagers. There were some 15, 16-year-old boys and girls, so we made sure the gifts were age appropriate. My little niece, Vanessa, who, by the way, has a Facebook page now. It's called Life with Kyra, Kyra. Please go support her. We got her a purse and a pair of like sandals that she loves. She loves the color white, so we made sure they were white. So everything was age appropriate. And the amazing thing is, once they opened it and they saw these things, they didn't oogle over them, didn't Google and goggle like maybe a materialistic yuppie or a consumeristic person. They set them off to the side and they went back to playing games. We played like games until like 2 a.m. And we kept eating the fattened pig. Everybody kept eating the fattened pig. Okay. I was supposed to not tell anybody, but I don't, well, actually they do watch this show. One of the cousins that was eating the fattened pig. I just met him this time over there. Somehow, he was in Manila, I think, when I lived over there the first time all those years. So we were at his place, and he's Dearly's age, 35, and we're talking for like an hour, hanging out, having a good time. And he says, "Oh, by the way, I wasn't going to tell you, but I watch you on Facebook. I like your jokes." I said, "Yeah, on Sick Twisted Humor, these 1-minute reels." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, what? So your wife told you that, or one of the cousins told you that Dearly's husband, Kevin, is a social media content creator?" And he's like, "No." Hold on. Got somebody was spam calling me. He's like, "No." He says, "I was scrolling on Facebook one day, and like, I like to watch jokes, and this joke comes up, and I listen to it, and it's from your page, Sick Twisted Humor. So I'm laughing, and I'm listening to you for like 2 or 3 weeks, and you told this really good joke. And so I finally told my wife, I said, "Hey, come here and listen to this. This is funny." So I replayed it for her, and she looked over and she squinted at the screen. She said, "Oh my God, that's our cousin Dearly's husband, Kevin." And I was like, "What, really?" Because he had never met me. And so he went to Dearly's Facebook and saw some pictures, like, "Oh my God, that is you." So he was watching me on Facebook, not realizing I was his cousin-in-law. So that was pretty neat. So my point is, I hope they're not watching me on YouTube, because I just outed him to his Islamic wife that he was eating pig at Christmas time. I tell you, I know his wife. I've seen her. She's pretty, and it would be tempting to convert, but, you know, if that was required to, you know, hook up with her for eternity. But man, I tell you, I love bacon, and I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. That's just a fact. So anyway, I knew the lesson had taken and had set in when my son gave away his Christmas presents to 3 children who otherwise wouldn't have gotten any. So it was worth the trip. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good times. It was awesome. You've got to go back and watch our video where we ziplined from one island. Literally, we ziplined from one island. All right, I got to wrap this up. There's like a growl back here. So we ziplined from one island to the other. We took boat tours, island hopping. It wasn't always so pleasant. I got sick a few times because of the pollution, and I think I have a compromised immune system because I did have dengue fever when I lived over there before, and your immune system never comes back entirely from that. And my body is just, now it's gone. But my body had just gotten used to such a clean environment here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. So anyway, mission accomplished. And now that we're back, my son, it's not that he ever started showing signs of materialism or consumerism. It's just we're surrounded by a lot of folks who do. And so the memories are still freshly burned into his mind that that's not what's important in life. You know, I mean, we know people, these kids, a lot of kids have everything except time spent with their parents, quality time spent with their parents. Their parents have to work so much to make all the minimum payments on their debt. So the stuff doesn't get taken away. They don't have time for their kids, you know, or they don't have time for themselves. A lot of these yuppies got themselves so far in debt. The kids are grown and gone now, and they're still working 60 hours a week. They're in their 60s, have 30-year mortgages. It's just insane, and I'm not judging. What I'm saying is that's not how we do it, and we want to make sure that's not how our son ends up doing it because that's what he's surrounded by. You know what I mean? If we get to eat 3 times a day and we know there's food there for tomorrow and we've got each other and we're all healthy and we're happy and we've got a roof over our head, we've got a heat source inside when it's cold, we've got a cooling source inside when it's hot, we are beyond blessed. Call us privileged. Hey, we're not going to discount the life we have so that, you know, you don't label us the way you want to. We know we're blessed. We're beyond blessed. So I hope you are too. And I think that if you feel you're not, if you look around and focus on the things you have rather than the things you want, I think you'll see that truly you are. Time to get out of here. See you next time for more.